Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm finally going to be taking a look at the Many Charizards of GLC. So what is GLC? For those of you who don't know, it's a single prize only, no Robux format allowed. So basically just means you can't play any of like the fancier Pokemon like EXs, Megas, V-Stars, V-Maxes, that sort of thing. It is also singleton except for basic energy, so only allowed one copy of each card in your deck, excluding basic energy, otherwise that would just be awful. And you're only allowed one type per deck, which sometimes can be a problem for certain Pokemon that have like different types in their evolution line. But thankfully for Charizard, there has always been fire type Charmanders, Charmeleons, and Charizards. And despite there being like one or two Roblox Pokemon, like several Roblox Charizards, I should say, that have been Dragon types, we are actually yet to see a single prize Dragon type Charizard for GLC, which is interesting. So maybe one day we'll see that at some point. But yeah, that would be cool to see. But yeah, as for the basics, I've just gone with some fairly bog standard choices here. I think the art rares are worth mentioning just because they're glorious, frankly. So yeah, they look amazing. The Charmander with Tail on Fire is probably your best bet, but still, like Blazing Destruction, 70 HP, very solid overall. Flare Veil is probably your best choice for Charmeleon, but there's also this amazing art rare as well. So if you want to stick with the theme and go really max rarity, it's definitely very easy to do with Charizard. So yeah, pretty cool to see. Next up, though, is we have the very first Charizard to take a look at here, and to be honest, it has some niche uses, like Split Bomb is probably the better attack, 40 damage to two of your opponent's Pokemon, so if you really want to play Charizard in a Fire-type spread deck, then I guess here you go. Although we will look at a Fire-type Charizard at the end of the video that has like just great synergy with a Pokemon that already does spread damage, so you probably want to play that Charizard over this one. But you know, this one has some very nice artwork. It does have the very nice gold rarity. So if you really want to go max rarity and like really splash out for this card, then you know that's a nice option. It's also got some decent synergy with some other fire types, like this Heatran, for example, that we looked at in the Many Heatrans of GLC video. But I think overall you could definitely do a better Charizard. Like this is not the worst one by sure, but it's it's not like brilliant or anything. So moving on, we do have a bit more of an interesting one. This one has the attack Recall. Choose one of this Pokemon's attacks from its previous evolutions and use it as this attack. So for the most part, Charmeleon doesn't really have too many interesting attacks. However, we did get a Charmander in the Sun and Moon era, which has the attack Reprisal, which does 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So if by some miracle you get Charizard to like tank a hit from a Pokemon that does a ton of damage, then you can of course want to kill them with Reprisal, which is really cool. So it's a nice situational use, I would say, because there's quite a lot of attackers now in GLC that can probably just one hit kill you before you'll get any value out of it. But I think overall it's a really interesting move. Of course, if you really wanted to splash out, you could try and attach 4 energy and use Combustion Blast, but it's only doing 130, which is, yeah, pretty pitiful for 4 energy, so wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, if you want to use Recall and Reprisal, then that's a nice little combo, but I think overall you could probably do with a better option. There's better Charizards for sure, but it's fun though at the end of the day. Next up is we have a pretty interesting one from a set Evolutions. This one has the ability Energy Burn. All energy attaches Pokemon are Fire Energy instead of their usual type, and then Fire Spin does 200 damage with 4 Fire Energy, and you have to discard 3 of them. So, funnily enough, there is actually like a reprinted version of this ability, really, in this Typhlosion. Typhlosion also has a better attack, 10 more HP, so, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. There's not really that much of a reason to play this guy. But if you do really like the artwork, you do really like Evolutions, and I think there's definitely worse cards out there for sure. And I would say is that if we ever get like a great way to accelerate non-fire energy in a fire type GLC deck, which is a bit weird, but if we ever did, then this Charizard could have a use, right? Because then you could switch the energy that you're accelerating into fire type energy and then actually attack. So, that could be really cool. I'm not sure if we'll ever see that, but we might see a supporter someday that's like really busted and attaches a load of different basic energy, and then you could turn them all into fire energy, and that would be really cool to see. And you could play like Typhlosion and Charizard together. But I think for now, it's not like the strongest card. 200 damage, though, is pretty respectable. It's definitely on the higher end for damage from Charizards, especially in this video. So like Burning Fighter Charmeleon, you might want to consider that one from set Dragon Majesty. Could be quite an easier way of like getting some energy on Charizard, but you're not going to be able to attack with it more than once or twice, really, because, you are discarding 3 energy. But I think overall, quite a decent Charizard. Next up is we have probably the worst Charizard in this list, sadly, just because there's one from Dragon Majesty. Just increases your damage to your opponent's Pokemon GX and EX in play. And because GLC doesn't allow GX Pokemon or EX, then yeah, this ability is doing nothing. And then Fire Blast just does 130 and you have to discard energy. So yeah, not very good, sadly. We can swiftly move on to the next one. This one is a bit more playable, I would say. Like, it's still a bit expensive in what it demands from your deck because you have to play so many energy, and you also have to play a lot of ways of like recycling those energy. But it's still a really solid attacker overall. Like, put 2 damage counters on it, search your deck for 2 fire energy, then you have to discard all fire energy from it, but you do 50 more damage for each one. So if you're willing to discard 3 energy, you can do 180, which is really decent. Then of course you can just scale it up even further. So you can do like 230, for example, for 4 NG. So a really good way, a really like cool way, I would say, of like getting big 1-hit KOs. But you know, it is a bit expensive. You'll have to run things like Recycler, Night Stretchers, Super Odds, stuff like that. You know, you will really have to build around this, I would say. But yeah, definitely a lot of worse options out there, and there's some really cool artworks as well for it. Then next up is we have a one from, I think this was the Detective Pikachu set. Now, it's not honestly that bad, like especially considering there is Protection Cube in GLC. So you're 180 damage, and then you do 50 to yourself, but at the end of the day, you won't do the 50 to yourself if you have Protection Cube. So that's quite a nice little combo, to be honest. It also has 108 HP, which is very respectable. Like, Slash isn't anything that impressive, but while Tackle can be used for like an Ignition Energy, or like a triple E as well, or like reversal, or you could just use welder. It's probably like the main way of getting energy on this guy. But I would say overall, definitely like worse options out there. Like, this other one was trash, right? This was unplayable. But at least this one's kind of interesting, right? It can get some big 1-hit KOs. So it's also got some more unique artwork because they're going for like the hyper realistic CGI effect that they used in the Detective Pikachu film. So kind of cool, you know, something different. But yeah, next up is we have this one from Vivid Voltage. This one has the very useful ability Battle Sense. It's just a bit of draw power, really. I know that Delphox and the Salazzle are really good draw engines in Fire type already, but this one's quite nice. You get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You get to keep one of them, and you have to discard the other 2. So quite nice overall, just for like some aggressive thinning. And if you ever want like synergy with the discard pile with like Blacksmith and things, then it can be quite useful. And then Royal Blaze for 2 Fire and G does 100 damage, and then 50 more damage for each Leon in your discard pile. So, unfortunately, because of a singleton rule, you'll only be able to run 1 Leon in your deck, full stop. But if you play the Leon this turn, actually, you'll be able to do 180 damage, because what Leon does is it just increases your attack damage for plus 30 for a single turn, which is definitely not the worst supporter in the world. Like, it could be way worse of an effect. So it's quite nice that you'll always have this plus 30 buff to use at some point in the game. But of course, you will have to like actually track it down. And until you do that, this attack is only doing 100 damage, which isn't that impressive. Like, once you've played Leon, like 150 is pretty solid for 2 energy, I would say. But until you get to that point, it's a bit awkward. So I'm a bit torn on how to feel about this one, but I definitely think there's way, way worse options, to be honest. But then we get to the more recent Charizard, and this one's actually the best one in GLC, as far as I can tell. Has the ability Burn Brightly. Each basic fire energy attached to your Pokemon provides 2 fire energy instead of 1. And you can't stack the ability, but that doesn't matter because we can only play 1 Charizard anyway. But still, a very useful ability. It means that if you stack a bunch of energy on Heatmore, for example, like just 3 energy, then you'll be able to do 90 damage and 180 damage snipe, which is really cool. You know, if you attach 2 energy to Ethan's Macargo, you'll be able to do, that's what, like 280 damage or something daft. You know, you can do like really crazy damage combos with this Charizard, which makes it very strong. Of course, it's still stage 2, you've got to set it up and all the rest of it, but very, very powerful card overall, I would say. It's just a bit awkward to get because Pokemon Go was a special set, but if you can find it cheaply online, it's definitely a very, very good card. So yeah, thanks for watching. I do a new set review for GLC with each new release, so do subscribe if you're interested in being updated. And this is a series to stay, so let me know which Pokemon you'd like to see. I've already done Venusaur and Blastoise, by the way. There is a list, but getting through them, and a playlist has been made. And if you want to dive into the competitive side, Omnipoke and the Format Creator Tricky Gym have both done fantastic videos and guides for each type. So yeah, let me know what you think about Charizard down below. Will you be trying it out in your GLC deck? And yeah, thank you for watching.